Welcome Professor Rajbir and Rohet. And with us, I am joined by General Jagtar, the Executive Director of Academy of Hospital Administration, and our President, Professor Hemchandra Pandey. Sir, before we introduce the esteemed panelists for today's webinar, may I request you to welcome our guests for the webinar today, and then I can take it over from there. Thank you, sir.
Okay, thank you, Shyama. Thank you very much for sharing these words. And a warm welcome to extended to the Dr. Rajbir Singh and the Dr. Rohet Sareen, sir. And we are meeting for the first time. In fact, so I could not attend that ceremony because out of the station on that particular day. And I congratulate the Academy of Hospital Administration and the your concept for signing the MOU between two organizations. Hope this will be blessed with a great opportunity and with the learned counselors or the academician like you. The Academy, you must be knowing about the Academy. Dr. Shyama and Dr. Jagtar Singh must have already given the enough insight about the Academy of the Hospital Administration. And what I personally feel that we will synergize to each other, basically moving forward in the direction of the management. And I think this is the first webinar which we are going to start after having signed this MOU, sir. And it's our, we are so lucky, or we got the good opportunity to have the association of people like you. And we are sure that in every aspect we will help to each other. This is the beginning of that, and we will talk about the future program, that how you are or we are going to help each other in the growth of the both of the organization. So without taking any more time, sir, this the first webinar, the startup journey, the concept of the consumer. You have taken a good topic of that, but unfortunately I will not be able to listen or attend the whole program because I have to go rush to the airport. Thank you for everybody, those who are watching, and Dr. Susan, Dr. Sinhare sir, and others, those who have already joined this particular program. And a special thanks to Dr. Shyama and the Dr. Jagtar Singh, and for organizing such a beautiful seminar or the webinar. In fact, so thank you very much. My best wishes to all of you. Thank you, sir. Thank you. Again, warm welcome to Dr. Rajbir Singh, sir, and the Dr. Rohet Sareen. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for a very warm welcome. Really appreciate that. Look forward to meeting you sometime soon.
Namaskar, sir.
Thank you. Thank you so much for those kind words. I would like to take this opportunity to formally introduce Dr. Rajbir and Mr. Rohet Sareen before I hand over to General Jagtar to say a few words. Dr. Rajbir Singh is the co-founder and CEO of I4 Mentors Foundation. And Mr. Rohet Sareen is the head of business and product development at COGNECTO. And as Professor Hemchandra Pandey actually informed that we are conducting today starting a series of 3 webinars with I4 Mentor Foundation. So this is basically dedicated to build a better India with healthcare as one of its key focus. And the intention here is to enable and startups so that they can go into their commercialization journey. They have assisted over 500 startups across the various sectors, including that of health sector. And therefore, we look forward to IIT's support in terms of the technological growth and development and the mentorship that is required in health sector. And all of you are aware that AHA is the largest body in this country and the oldest body in this country as far as hospital administrators are concerned. And we have got all Rohitji and Rajbir sir, we have got people from all walks of life who are passionate about healthcare as our members and our partners, and including that of institutional members. And we actually are very proud to have this MOU with I4 Mentor Foundation so that we can take it forward to the larger set of population. And Rohit ji is actively engaged in startup ecosystem and mentoring them through the foundation. He has been a support for fundraising. He holds a bachelor's and master's degree in engineering, in electrical and electronic engineering from Delhi College of Engineering, and an MBA with a focus on IT and marketing from Cherry. So it's a great pleasure to welcome you all, you both rather, for this webinar. And I would, before further making any further ado on this respect, I would request General Jagtar Singh to say a few words so that we can welcome our esteemed guests today and kickstart the webinar, sir. Over to you, Jagtar, sir. Sir, you're on mute. Sir?
Yeah. Good afternoon, everyone, and especially good afternoon to Dr. Rajbir and Mr. Rohet Sareen. So, what to talk of startups? I think this MOU for AHA is like a startup for us. So, this is something that is new that we have ventured into. We are all very excited about it in AHA, and it gives us a great opportunity to offer to our members to explore this, uncharted and a new kind of a pathway to entrepreneurship and to explore themselves, their abilities, and their potential. It was always a pleasure to meet Dr. Rajbir and Rohit. And when Shyama says, Dr. Shyama was saying, I'll request Jagtar to say a few words. This is an oxymoron. So I have to make an attempt to stop, right? So it's never a few words. So having said that, welcome once again. We are all ears. We all want to, listen to you, learn from you, and, be with you in our journey to explore these opportunities for our members and for your mentees who are there. So thank you so much. Welcome. And I'll hand it back to Dr. Shyama before she commences the webinar. Thank you, Dr. Shyama.
Thank you so much, sir. And I see our board member, Dr. Jawahar Pillai, as well. Welcome, Dr. Jawahar. And it's good that we are able to, thank you so much for being able to make on a Saturday afternoon, all of you. And I would not like to come further in between this discussion, but just for sanitation and hygiene issues, may I request everybody to kindly note their questions and hear out Rajbir sir and Rohit ji for next 30 minutes and then come up with questions. We would request all of you to keep noting them down, and we can come back to all of you with the questions that you may like to present to them. Thank you so much, and over to you, Rajbir sir.
Thank you, Dr. Shyama. Thank you, Dr. Jagtar. Thanks for a very warm welcome. It's exciting to be here today. It's an August audience, very learned people. What I really say, it's very easy to present to journalists. It's harder to present to technocrats. People who are very hands-on. And something that's very unique about this community is that, unlike most of the other management professionals, you see your customers every day. You are actually probably closest to your customers than any other profession, whether that's probably hospitality is another one where they are very close to their customers. But generally, most of the other industries, whether that's tech or software or most of them are far away from their customers. So people build great products. Facebook company is a great company, but there's a distance between management and the customers. It's very vast, actually. So therefore, your understanding of what the customers' problems are and what the pain points are, and is very intimate, and which is a great starting point for building any kind of startup or for doing any kind of innovation. So that's a huge privilege that you have. So can I share my screen, Dr. Shyama?
Please, sir. Please.
Okay. So you already introduced us. Thanks for that. And what I'm going to do is just a couple of slides on iPhone mentors, and then we'll dive deep into the startup journey from idea to customer. Uh, Let me know if you're not able to hear me or not able to see the screen.
Loud and clear, sir. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So quickly talk about iPhone Mentors Foundation. So we are a very unique startup accelerator. There are not many startup accelerators except in the government system, which are not for profit. So we feel that here's an opportunity to create impact using technology, and creating impact using technology is very helpful, largely because these solutions are more scalable, and therefore it's easier to create impact at scale with the help of technology. We have a large number of mentors with us from IIT Delhi, Bangalore, and other institutes. We have some doctors with us, and we are very keen to collaborate with AHA, largely because it creates an opportunity to combine deep domain knowledge and technology capability to create impact. There is what we have thought of is we can create an incubation facility where the startups can be incubated and the ideas can be brought from ideation stage to prototyping, testing, and then taken to the market. So that's why we are very excited about this MOU between the two organizations. We started with a collaboration with blessings of IIT Delhi and IIM Bangalore. So, we continue to have their support. So we have mentored or actually supported more than 500 startups over the last 7 years, as Dr. Shyama said. Some of the startups that some are in healthcare, some are in deep tech, some are in clean tech. There are many more, actually. There are some in EV space, electric mobility, ed tech, and so on. But just sharing a few names here, like cutting edge medical devices. The founder was incubated at IIT Delhi. Flexmo, Sanfe, they're all incubated at IIT Delhi. Durahip, Runwile is an IIT guy. Fabios is an IIT guy. And they have used deep tech to create products which could be very useful for the medical fraternity. So these are some of the mentors. As you see me there, you see Rohit there, and a lot of other people who have deep expertise in the industry, healthcare industry, as well as in the other industries, both the software industry and the traditional industry. So there we have access to deep ecosystem, both the funding as well as the industry ecosystem. So I'll get to the core part of the webinar now. So we'll basically, so you guys all already seen probably multiple episodes of Shark Tank. So startup is not a new thing anymore. You probably already know what a startup is. However, many of us aspire to do a startup, but we kind of hold ourselves back because we're not clear as to how to take it forward from idea to reality, from idea to a small or a large business. That's a challenge that most of us face. And that aspect, but however, that aspiration, and I really see two motivations for the aspiration. In your profession, I see a lot of people having deep commitment to welfare of people. Plus, you have a deep and intimate knowledge of the customers or patients' problems. And you also have access to potential ideas and solutions that can actually help resolve those problems. So therefore, I see deep commitment to making a difference. That, to my mind, is a great starting point for building a mission-led organization. A startup which is based on the idea of making a difference can actually be a very powerful startup, because you're not running after just money. You're also running after the objective of making a difference. That kind of keeps you motivated, that sustains your energy levels, sustain your motivation levels, that inspires other people to join the startup journey, and also inspires the investors. So a mission-led approach can be very, very powerful motivation for any startup. So we'll talk about what's a startup. We'll talk about the different stages. You must have heard of problem solution fit, product market fit. What are those stages? Why are they relevant? What if you don't get them right? So validation, to our mind, is extremely important. Our experiences, technocrats tend to be very, very confident of their deliverables, their products. Therefore, they kind of tend to miss out, and in overconfidence, they tend to miss out on the market validation, on building sales capabilities, building distribution capabilities. So therefore, it's very important to understand what the startup success stages are, and what are the reasons why some startups succeed and some don't succeed. And so we'll talk about the reasons for success and failure, and we'll talk about how to raise money. Raising money is the hardest in the healthcare business because it's a high risk business requiring multiple regulatory hoops to be cleared. It's a long cycle from idea to commercialization because of the testing requirements. Okay, and because the failure rate is high, it's not easy to attract funding. So how do you raise money? Okay, and then another thing that we have seen is very, very important for success is deciding whether you are the right person to actually take it forward or not. Do you have in it you to become an entrepreneur? And then building a team is very important. How do you decide whether the co-founders, you need a co-founder or not, or do you, what kind of co-founder you should hire or should bring on board? What kind of investors you should bring on board? And what kind of mentors you should bring on board? How do you decide? These are difficult decisions to make because they have a significant impact on your day-to-day life as a startup entrepreneur. So I'll pause here for a moment and invite any feedback. If there's anything else that you would like us to cover or you'd like us to skip, then we can do that. Or if you have any specific issues that you like us to cover, then you please feel free to either put them in the chat window, okay, or you can speak it out right now. Or we can cover them in Q&A as well, as Dr. Shyama said. What we'll also do is we will also cover a case study or a B2B startup, because most of the healthcare startups are B2B startups. And this journey of a B2B business is very different from a B2C business. In a B2B business, there are a lot of existing players who are already deeply invested. It's not easy to dislodge them. And because B2B adoption tends to be slower, existing players do get time to build their own capability and become a competition to the startup or new ideas or new innovations. They can build their own innovative ideas, they can copy and they can scale because they have access to resources, they have access to infrastructure, they have access to money. So we'll talk about how one B2B venture Rohit has been part of. And he'll also briefly talk about what are the typical challenges in the healthcare sector, what are the key trends in the healthcare sector. So what is a startup? In my experience, there is two kinds of startups. Startups which are there in the minds of the people and startups which are actually out there. What my belief is, there are a lot more people who want to be an entrepreneur, but they're not sure how to become an entrepreneur. So, you have an innovative idea, but you don't know how to convert that into a business. So one good starting point could be that you, inside your organization, you become an intrapreneur first. You test your ideas and then see whether those ideas actually are valid or not. Are they solving a problem? Are you build a prototype? And then maybe if you feel that you have in it, you have the ability to hustle, you have the ability to push through the larger system and sell your idea, make your idea a success, encourage people to adopt your idea, are able to build a cohort of influencers who can take your idea forward, then you can possibly jump into the bandwagon of becoming an independent startup entrepreneur. You can do that. But if you have an aspiration, don't hesitate. Bring it out. This collaboration, this MOU will actually has been designed to help aspiring entrepreneurs to convert those ideas into actual products and actual startups. So I'll also say a lot of you are also familiar with a small business model, maybe a small hospital, maybe a nursing home, maybe a clinic, or some of you work in the large hospitals. But a startup is very different from a classical business. How's it different is, so let me just outline that. Basically, what a startup is doing is taking significant risk because it is trying to solve a large and critical problem. A general business is a very safe option. It is also taking risk, but generally a financial risk. But a business risk is much deeper when you try to solve a large and critical problem through an innovation. And whenever you try to take an innovation to the market, there's always resistance to adoption of innovation. So a startup is therefore, different from a normal business because you are actually taking an innovative idea to the market, and you're carrying a lot more risk compared to a classical business. And it requires a lot more effort in terms of funding, in terms of collaboration, in terms of adoption compared to a classical business. But the counter side is it is also creates an opportunity to creation of wealth. If you're successful, you will be able to create wealth. You'll be able to create wealth for yourself, for your family, for your partners, and your members of the ecosystem. So that's an upside. But don't start with the idea of just creating wealth. Obviously there is a desire, but that cannot be the only goal. The goal should be, how do I make a difference? How do I make my customers happier? How do I solve their critical problems? How do I solve the large problems? That should be the primary goal, actually. So I'll start with a couple of simple examples. For example, Levi's. We all wear jeans, and very simple innovation started with a very simple problem. Clothes for mining workers don't last. Somebody invented a pair of jeans with a slightly different kind of cloth, which would last longer. A very simple idea, right? So the whole idea of showing this is you really don't always need a very big breakthrough innovation to be able to come up with a scalable startup. While it's much more difficult in the healthcare space than the other spaces, but in healthcare also people using the idea like marketplaces, okay, and simple product ideas have been able to scale those because they've been able to solve some critical problems which have not been addressed yet. Another very simple way to identify and solve a problem is, there are a lot of ladies in the room here, guitars for women. Somebody saw this. So Tish Sirawal was a great guitarist. She loved playing guitars, but she didn't like the guitars out there. She felt there were no guitars for the women. So what she did was she actually created a company called Daisy Rock Guitars. And look at the kind of guitars she created. Fancy guitars, lovely, beautiful looking guitars, light guitars, smaller guitars, which could help the women guitarists. So you see, you have to go out and be passionate about something, find a problem, solve it, and a simple solution where the market is large and scalable can actually create a startup. Another very simple idea in the medical space, not a simple idea, sorry, it's a complex idea, but difficult idea. The problem is real. How do you make anemia is a huge problem today? How do you create affordable and accessible products for that? So there's this company called Sanguina based in the US, I think, and they came up with an AI-based model to scan fingernails and measure hemoglobin levels based on that. Very simple idea. Take a picture of fingernails and use AI to see what are the hemoglobin levels. So they've identified a problem, which is well known to the doctors, and use technology to actually, so AI is actually helping solve a lot of problems today. Use AI to solve that problem. So another one, very fascinating solution again. Early cancer detection is again a huge ask today, because as the cancer detection gets delayed, the cost of treatment and gets escalated, and the survival rate actually goes down. So this company spotted early. They used breath sample to identify, specific volatile organic compounds to detect 4 types of cancers: breast cancer, lung cancer, colon cancer, and prostate cancer. Again, a very innovative idea. Now, the reason I'm sharing these is because your idea has to be very different from the way the problems are being solved today for it to gain traction. Otherwise, you run into a large existing set of interests whom you'll find very hard to displace. There are a lot of innovations that we have seen. People come up with diagnostic tools, but because of the existing diagnostic infrastructure and existing diagnostic system, the lab system, it's very difficult to create an environment of adoption for new innovations. So your ideas, need not be always high tech, but your ideas and solutions must create a step up capability, which is far better than the existing capability. So while when you build a startup is only the first step in building a business. When you look at the business, it has multiple stages. First stage is startup. However, after that, there are three more stages. And it's only substantially later in the life that the business starts to decline. But before that, once a startup has been adopted by the market, accepted by the customer, accepted by the regulators, after that, it must scale. It's only when it is able to cross the startup stage, is able to scale very rapidly, that the startup actually has a chance of becoming a business. Now, why I'm showing this life cycles phases, because a lot of people take shortcuts to cross the startup phase. When you take the shortcuts to start at the startup phase, you don't do adequate validation. You cut corners in terms of rollout, in terms of pricing, in terms of rollout, in terms of distribution model, in terms of customer acquisition. Okay, what tends to happen is the scaling doesn't happen. The scaling, the rapid growth is extremely important, and that only can happen when you cross the startup phase successfully. Let me show you another graph which will actually probably bring it together much more clearly. There is a book called Crossing the Chasm by a famous management thinker called Geoffrey Moore. He came up with this idea. He said, this adoption. So what you really see are the 5 distinct stages of adoption of innovation. So there are 5 different categories of customers. There are innovators, early adopters, early majority, late majority, and laggards. So you will find there are, typically in the customers, there are 5 different unique personalities. And the first 2 are the risk takers, and the next 3 are not risk takers. And this is and the first 2 is generally cover about 16-17% of the market. So so it's easier to get buyers from these 2 categories, innovators and early adopters. But it's difficult to actually cross the chasm and ensure adoption by the next set of customers, which are called early majority. So early majority and rest of the guys are more like followers, and they are conservative buyers. So while it's easier to sell your ideas to innovators and early adopters, it's difficult to sell your idea to early majority and so on, later guys. So therefore, it's very important that when you actually reach the early adoption stage, you should have done adequate market validation, built your distribution model, done your pricing validation, and built a set of reference customers, built a team of strategic partners and customers who will stand by you. Unless that is done, it's very hard to cross the chasm. This is the most difficult challenge any startup faces. A lot of startups actually die at this stage. Let me show you what really happens. So this is what tends to happen. After the launch stage, most of the startups tend to drop off. Another reason is that there is a very high cash burn at the initial stages. You're generally not profitable at the initial stages because you're not profitable, you're losing money. And then what you have not done is built up a portfolio of reliable customers who are going to be your strategic partners, and you're not manage your cost of customer acquisition, because if your product is not great, you have to give a lot of discounts and sell cheap. Okay, and you have to do all that, and therefore your profitability is low. Actually, you're making a lot of losses because you're losing money. You don't have a portfolio of customers. You don't have a proven technology. You end up falling off the cliff right after the launch phase. Okay, that's why 90% of the startups fail. But you don't want to be in the 90%. You want to be in the 10%. So how do you become the 10%? Making sure you do extensive validation. So this is a typical startup journey. You start with an idea, and obviously you do a lot of validation at that stage, talk to friends, you build a prototype, then you make the product, you launch it, then you scale the business. But it's very, very important that you keep validating at various stages. And you see those, circles, iterations, stage 2 and stage 4, where extensive validation and and product iteration is required. You need to keep changing, keep building, not just the product, but also your business model. A business model is much more than a product. Business model includes pricing, distribution model, marketing strategy, branding strategy, sales strategy, your organization culture. You have to put everything together, and when you actually go out and compete in the market, it's not just the product which is competing, it's all this together which is competing. So it's very, very important that you do. So the first, where you're just validating the problem and solution, is called problem solution fit. And the stage where you actually validate the entire business model is called product market fit. You actually validate whether your entire business model is fit for the market or not. What channels you sell through, what pricing, what incentive, and so on. Are you selling online? You're selling offline, etc. Who's your target segment? Okay. So everything comes together, has to come together before you actually get into the growth and the scale phase. Unless you've done extensive validation, and that's where most of the technocrats actually fail. Unfortunately, technocrats don't value the larger issues around developing a business. That's been my experience. I could be wrong. It's not a sweeping statement. I'm sure there are a lot of people who do a great job, but I've seen that there are a lot of people who don't do it. So therefore, it becomes difficult for them to scale. Okay. And, just want to represent scaling as well. Scaling essentially means that your revenues are growing much faster than your costs. The second picture, the picture in the middle. Okay. That is what scaling is all about. If you're touching along, your revenue and costs are linearly growing, there hardly any, you're making some money, but you're somehow surviving. That's a normal business. A scaling is where your costs are not growing as rapidly as your revenue. That tends to happen when you have a technology-based solutions. That tends to happen when your cost of customer acquisition is low. Tends to happen when your cost of retention is low. Your cost of service is low. Your product development, significant product development is already behind you. And you have built a great brand so that you have the pricing power, right? So that's scaling. Your product has gone viral, or your services have gone viral, and people are after you. That they want to come and buy it from you. So that leads to lower cost of customer acquisition. So what we really want to do is we want to build a startup that actually is ready for scaling. Okay. However, the most important thing is, what kind of problem are you solving? How do you identify a good idea? Because you can do all this only if you have a good idea. How do you identify the right kind of problem to solve? That's not easy, right? A lot of people use Me Too ideas, they copy ideas. It's not wrong to copy ideas, but make sure that those ideas you're copying from other places, they are actually modified in the Indian context. There is no existing competition. There are entry barriers for other people when you actually build that idea. So it's okay to borrow an idea, but execution has to be in the local context. But it has to be a good idea which is scalable. So how do you identify a good idea? Generally, a good idea is the one which is following a mega trend, a large mega trend, or a trend, at least, if not a mega trend. Like you see quick commerce, right? Quick commerce has suddenly taken off, or like e-commerce took off about 20 years back, largely because there was a huge trend, people seeking convenience. And it was enabled by the underlying explosion in the internet technology capabilities, bandwidth, hand phones, smartphones, right? So therefore, there were underlying mega trends. And today there's a lot of focus on healthcare. People are very conscious about their wellness, healthcare. Okay. And therefore, there are a lot of startups around wellness. You'll see a lot of startups, people, especially online apps. How do you improve your lifestyle? How do you take care of yourself so that, the non-communicable diseases can actually be prevented or managed? So there are underlying trends that today you see a lot of focus on defense, drones, for example, because national security has become a mega trend. There was a point of time globalization was a mega trend, right? And therefore, a lot of companies were actually building products for global scale and not just for their own country. So therefore, one has to identify what are the mega trends. Consumerism is a mega trend today. So you see a lot of entertainment-related startups today. You see things like PVR doing very well, and the large single-ticket, large single-block cinemas have disappeared largely. So you see hotels doing very well, boutique hotels coming in because people have pricing power and people have money, disposable money, and they want to go out and spend money on their personal entertainment and their on travel and touring. So therefore, those sectors are also growing. So if you pick up a sector which is growing on its own, and try and identify a startup in that, then there's a much higher chance of startup becoming successful, because when the market is growing, it's like the boats are growing. That's easier for everyone to grow in that segment. Competition tends to be lesser and it's easier to grow. So these are a few ideas. Ride a trend. Ideally, a combination of trends, maybe AI and healthcare is a combination. AI and quick commerce or need for convenience is a trend, or AI and rise in disposable income is a trend, right? That's one. Second is you solve a critical problem. Ideally, if you can use your own experience to identify a problem, you will have a much more and intimate knowledge of the problem, and you are privileged to have that access to your patients, your customers. Okay, and use your personal ability. You should have a deep capability to actually work on that idea. You must have either you should have a tech capability, or you should be able to build a marketplace, or you should be able to automate the processes, or so on. Like essentially, the idea is your personal capability is very, very important at the initial stages when you pick an idea. It must match your personal strengths. Okay. And there's a very nice acronym I came across. It's called LOVE. So the idea should be large, urgent, and valuable. So I just kept it. I've talked about this idea. I mean, these messages earlier, but this acronym is really nice. So you must fall in the love with an idea which meets the criteria of love, actually. So if it doesn't meet, if only when problem is large, urgent, and valuable, it is likely to become a large scale, venture scale business. I talked about the business model, and you're not just a product which is competing, it's a business model which is competing. How you do your pricing, what's your sales and marketing strategy, what's your distribution model, what's your packaging, what's your branding, do you have a pool of strategic partners, strategic investors, what's your manufacturing strategy, how are you managing manufacturing costs, right? What kind of organization culture have you built in? Is a resilient culture? Is a customer first culture, right? All those things put together actually compete in the marketplace. If those components are not there, then sooner or later, you will fall behind in your ability to innovate and compete. Okay. And finally, finding investors. How do I find investors? It's not easy to find investors, especially in the healthcare space. So initial investors, generally founders have to put in their own money. You take money from family, friends, but a lot of government grants are available, like BIRAC and Department of Biotechnology and Department of Science and Technology. Pfizer has a grant, and a lot of other people, Tata Trust has a grant, and so on. I'll talk about a startup which actually used multiple sources as an example for building initial capability. Or try to get a strategic partner on board who is also investor, who understands the sector, who is also able to become your initial customer. Okay, so these could be initial sources of funds. It's difficult to find a professional investor or a institutional investor to invest at an early stage. So here's an example of Sascan Meditech. They have done oral cancer treatment, diagnostic tools. They are developed, and they got support from BIRAC and DST Nidhi Prayas for R&D and prototyping. They got Nidhi support scheme and Will Grow for seed funding and scale up support. So there are these kind of unconventional sources available for funding. Obviously, and another very important element is they also got a lot of other partners to support them, like Kerala Startup Missions, IIT Madras Incubation Cell, for incubating and mentoring, Tata Trust, for testing, and IKP Knowledge Park for lab infrastructure and technical guidance. So it's like a village, as they say, it takes a village to bring up a child. Similarly, it takes a large ecosystem to actually bring up a healthcare startup. Okay, and right at the beginning, it's like a valley of death. Because your revenue is low, product is not tested, so people don't want to invest at this stage. Okay, raising funds at the initial stage is hard due to limited growth and very high risk. Okay, and it's best to find an anchor and strategic investor who understands the idea and the market. Okay, and another thing that you can do, like I talked about some of these startups earlier, try to build a business that can have near monopoly in the chosen segment. And how do you create a monopoly? It's not like a government monopoly like MTNL used to be or Air India used to be. It's basically you create a monopoly by creating a product that is so superior that people don't have a choice but to work with you. Okay, when people don't have a choice but to work with you, it becomes a monopoly. It's not a monopoly that you have created through government policies. It's a monopoly that you've created through innovation. So there are two important elements here: choice of the segment plus the quality of innovation. When the two get combined, when the quality of innovation is very good and the product and the segment is appropriate and accessible and large enough, you create a monopoly for yourself. That also leads to lower cost of sales, lower cost of distribution, leads to early adoption, leads to acceptance in the market. So it solves a lot of problems for you. Okay. And finally, building the team. As I talked about earlier, it's not easy to build a startup. Therefore, it's very important to have the right kind of motivation. You must start with the idea of making a difference in the lives of people. You need to have a mission-oriented approach. Unless you have that, it's difficult to sustain innovation and passion. And obviously, you're taking a risk beyond normal risks. And so therefore, you need a tenacity for the organization to survive. So what you need to do is you need to build a team in that context. So why I talked about that is because you are building a team in the context of the hard path that you have asked for yourself or defined for yourself. So therefore, it's important to build a team which is strategic in nature and matches your value system. When I say strategic in nature, your co-founders must be complementary in nature. They must match the value system. Ideally, it should be 3 founders in a startup for the startup to scale. The research shows that if there are at least 3 founders, that startup has at least 3 times more chance of succeeding than a startup with only 1 founder. Okay. And be open to sharing the gains and win together. Don't try to keep all the equity with yourself. The moment you do that, you will not be able to build a team. You'll not be able to invite smart people, and you'll not be able to scale. You'll be very happy that you've done something. You'll be very happy at the end of the life that, oh, I fulfilled my dream of starting a startup, but you'll not be happy about the fact that it didn't scale. Okay. So have that attitude of winning together and sharing the gains. And this is the last slide. Hopefully I have not outrun the time. 2 nice books. Try to read them. They are very good for startups, understanding the startup journey and what are the critical success factors. 0 to 1 is a book by Peter Thiel. He talks about this concept of monopoly that I talked about earlier. How do you build a monopoly? He talks about that. Peter Thiel is a very, very successful founder. He built PayPal. He was one of the initial investors in Facebook and has built numerous businesses. Very, very successful and rich guy. And this is a very nice short book built out of his lectures at Stanford. And I found it very useful. Most of the people I've recommended to found it very useful. And second book that's extremely useful is called Blue Ocean Strategy. This was done out of by 2 professors based out of INSEAD in France. So they talk about how do you identify vacant areas of white spaces where there is no competition. It's extremely important to understand that concept because it's very easy to launch me-too products. It's harder to launch more innovative products. But if you understand the underlying theory, it becomes easier to launch innovative products as well. So thank you so much. That brings me to the end of my session. And I'll request Sir Rohet to take over and share his thoughts on a B2B case study and his views on the healthcare sector. Thank you. Thank you so much. So Shyama, Dr. Shyama, would you like me to take some questions at this stage or do we wait till the end of the presentation?
Yeah, I'm okay. If people have got some questions, we have our ex-president, Dr. Yashpal Sharma, and our director, program and academics, Surgeon Captain Patni as well. So if people are keen to ask some questions, please go ahead. Please raise your hands and go ahead. Anybody? Yeah, Dr. Jawahar.
Yeah, good afternoon. This is Dr. Jawahar S.K. Pillai. I'm professor and head of hospital administration at the AIIMS Bhubaneswar. I have been at Sri Chitra Tirunal Institute for Medical Science and Technology at Trivandrum for about 20 years, and I have moved to Bhubaneswar for last 8 years. So I have some exposure to the startup. And one point I wanted to clarify is about the patents. So the getting patents and this startups are also much related.
Yes.
So could you just, little bit elaborate on that, because we have a very nice talk by you, and the very nitty-gritties of many of the issues you have covered. Thank you very much. We would like to know, about how do you, the new idea, then you need to go to the patent also, otherwise you will lose the track. So how do you merge both these things? And
yeah, so what we can do is it's a very intricate subject, Dr. Jawahar. And what we can do is maybe in the next webinar, we can talk about the entire intellectual property management process. Mr. Somarajan, who's part of our team, he was the head of intellectual property management at FITT at IIT Delhi. And he can take a session on what are the nuances of intellectual patent management. And otherwise, if you have any specific question, you can write to me offline. I'll be happy to, share my assessment, my feedback. Do you already have some patents? Have you applied for them? Do you want to apply for that? At what stage are you in terms of patent application?
No, as such, there are no such patents which are pending.
Okay.
But I know that getting a patent is a long process.
Yes.
So how is it that the startups obtain this and go forward? So I was just interested to know that.
So government has launched a new their policy because that's so that they allow the startups to quickly acquire a patent. It doesn't take 2 years or 3 years anymore. It can be done much more quickly. I think within 3 months you get a patent now. So there is a new policy which has come out about 6 to 8 months back.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, so you can, if you want, we have patent lawyers with us. We have, whatever help you need, we'll be happy to support that.
In fact, Dr. Jawahar, just to inform, so this series of webinar with IIT I4 Mentor Group will be a series of 3 webinars. So second and fourth Saturdays going forward. So in one of these, we will be discussing patent at length as well. So would request yourself and your team to kindly join for that as well, so that you get a greater insight onto the new policy. I think for now, I think we should go ahead with the current journey so as to do justice to the questions which are there here, put forth to the things that you've talked about at the moment.
So before that, could you please share your contact details in the...
Yeah, so you can put it on the chat box, Rajbir sir.
Yeah. Sure, I'll do that. Right. Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Jawahar. Yeah.
So should we hand it over to Rohit? Rohit, can you please come in?
Sure. So I hope everyone can see my screen.
Yes.
Okay. So first of all, thank you for having this opportunity. I think it's always fantastic to meet you, also Dr. Shyama and Dr. Jagtap. I think it's always, your forward-looking vision is something that we definitely look forward to. So what I'll do is I'll talk a little bit about some of the challenges within the healthcare startup ecosystem. I will share my own startup journey. It's in the B2B space, so that we can really, put some practical experience out there. And of course, if you have any questions, etc., more than happy to talk. I just want to, take sort of reconnect back to one of the last slides that Rajbir had, which was around the team, and I think that's a very, very important piece of information, or it's a very important, really make or break. Even more than funding, what you require is a great team, and it's really the sum of all its parts. So I think one has to be very careful when choosing their teams. I would much rather have a committed and a passionate team member who maybe not be technically proficient, or who's not technically great, then have a technically great guy, but lot less proficient or a lot less proficient. So I think having the right team, that really makes a lot of difference, and people who are passionate. The other thing is, a lot of us, and this will be my experience as well, a lot of us shy away from talking about money while working in a startup. We think it's someone will take care of it, or it's too embarrassing. But I think this is something that I think needs to be there upfront. People need to talk about it, what their roles, responsibilities, expectations, their compensation, their stock options, etc. So that later on there are no sort of really misgivings. So I think that having the team, having the right internal team dynamics, I think that's really crucial, because frankly, more than when an investor invests money, he invests in a team more than the startup itself. So that's really the point that I wanted to make. Then I think so. Let's then continue the conversation. I think some of the major challenges I think within the healthcare innovation typically are that I think within the healthcare industry, what we at times see is a slightly risk averse, because you typically are talking about patients' lives at stake, and you have your doctors and your healthcare professionals really their reputation at stake. So there's a lot of sort of hesitancy with regards to doctors, hospitals, etc. in terms of sort of coming up with some of the innovations. Add to that the fact that you have a lot of regulatory complexity. Dr. Johar also spoke about the patent piece. So it is, I think, healthcare by itself, I think, is definitely a lot more, slightly more intense. But the risk-taking profile, I think, definitely tends to be higher in a healthcare innovation. That's just really just the nature of the beast. Then I think in terms of if you talk about really a core product, I mean the development cycles tend to be quite long, and at times investors really don't have the patience to sort of wait for such a long time, because when you have higher sort of development cycles, you need to make some R&D investments, etc. So I think all of these things tend to take time and capital, and a lot of investors tend to sort of really stay away from them. So there are specialized investors who have pretty long-term visions, like 5 years, 7 years. The key idea is to sort of really find them. And a typical B2C investor will usually not invest in a healthcare startup because of the risk and the capital requirements, etc. And again, I think also in terms of the expertise of the investor, I think that's very crucial. I've been part of many calls where the first thing when you went through the whole call and then you realize the investor didn't really understand the product. So someone who can sort of really so I think it's a two-way street. You need to explain your product or your idea quite well. At the same time, the investor, especially in a healthcare, has to have that domain knowledge to sort of really make a judgment call. Otherwise, frankly, at times it tends to be a waste of time when you're looking for investors. So finding I think just like the investor looks for your credentials, you also need to look for the credentials of the investors to really figure out if he's really the right fit for you. So I think that's one of the challenges of the healthcare innovation piece. I just thought Rajbir also spoke about how do you get the right ideas, etc. So I thought I'll just lay out some of the innovations that are happening right now. I think AI-powered diagnostics is going. I think it's pretty much in the news nowadays, and along with the decision support. So I think that's something that's going to continue quite a bit. A lot of investor money is getting poured in there. Remote patient monitoring and telehealth. I think this is again, this is a slightly mature industry. I mean, hasn't really taken off the way it was supposed to, but I think it's a bit of a bread and butter industry. Supply chain optimizations with regards to pharma products, etc. Workflow automation and efficiency. I think this is like a bit of a and this includes a lot of hospital automation, etc. that you're talking about, and data analytics and predictive modeling. I think that's something that's taking place as well. Interestingly, I've been part of a couple of calls where I've seen some of the innovators doing some fantastic work in terms of predicting diseases, figuring out, doing the diagnosis of disease. And at the end of the call, it turns out these guys were actually not doctors. They had built their product totally on the AI and the data analytics piece. So I think this is an interesting perspective that I see, that you don't need if you've given good amount of data to the artificial intelligence these days, you can actually enter fields which were pretty much domain specific earlier. So I think there's a lot of exciting things happening with regards to AI, with regards to diagnosis, with regards to the disease modeling piece. So I think those are some of the hot topics that are there right now. What do you need to do? I think I would say both. I think you can be an entrepreneur, which is like a startup person, or even an intrapreneur, which is you take up an initiative within your own organization and sort of really lead that piece as well. Uh, so I would say I think building an innovation team in organizations I think is extremely important. You at times we tend to get so much bogged down with the day-to-day jobs, etc. I think as an organization, both for the startups as well as for regular organizations, I think it's important to create innovation time allocation. So a lot of organizations nowadays say that you can put 20% of your time in terms of innovating something or innovating a process. You don't have to invent something. Even if you innovate something or improve a process, that's really good enough. You need to establish innovation performance metrics and recognition programs. So such as how many new ideas have been generated, what's the revenue that's coming out of the new product innovation, what are some of the process improvements, what are the efficiency gains. So I mean, if you have matrices like these, I think that and these are part of people's KPIs, I think that really helps. Again, coming to leveraging in external innovation, I think there's in the ecosystem within India. I think I'm glad to say is fantastic. There are tons and tons of organizations, ourselves included, iPhone mentors included, which sort of provide you with a platform in terms of where different people can come together. You can bounce off your ideas. You can talk to investors. You can talk to subject matter experts. You talk to entrepreneurs who've been there, done that before. So I think there's a whole ecosystem which you frankly can sort of really tap into. So asking the question, what do I do next? I think I would suggest actually there are organizations like TIE, there are organizations like NASCOM. You can just go out there, start meeting people. I think that will, I think, open up a whole new world for you. I think having hospital facilities for testing grounds for startups, I think that's important one. I think that's a huge advantage which I think AHA has. So I think with the right framework, I think this is something within the ecosystem. People have in the healthcare. One of the biggest challenges is how do I get access to really my pilot. So I think that's where I think the AHA can really play a very important role, and creating a mentorship program between hospital leaders along with the entrepreneurs. I think that can definitely be a win-win situation. So I think that was some of the inputs that I have or rather had with regards to the healthcare industry. I'll move. If there are any questions, more than happy to take. I will sort of move on to the part of the startup that I was. It was a B2B startup. So I'll just take a pause here. Ask if there are any questions. Else I'll move through my startup journey. I'll share some of my experiences, my learnings over the next 5-10 minutes. Any questions, Dr. Shyama, from the team?
Any questions, members there? I think it will be great to listen to you, Rohit, your startup experience, so that we can know from a fellow colleague that which are the pitfalls to look for.
Sure. Thank you, Dr. Shyama. So I was part of a startup called COGNECTO. It's a B2B startup in the infrastructure space, like mining, construction, etc. So it's a pretty niche field. So we have our IoT devices which will tell you the productivity of the assets, like your huge dumper trucks or your bulldozers, as well as the productivity that's actually happening at the mining sector. So it's in a very challenging environment. Imagine a remote place in Australia or Jharkhand, typically where there are no network, there's very limited network, very limited any ecosystem. So I would say what we were in the business of sort of really democratizing a lot of knowledge that was happening or a lot of information that was happening at the ground level. From the time something happens on the ground to the time the HQ gets to know, it typically used to take a week or so. And we were doing it on a real-time basis. So that's the piece that we were really doing. We were telling them their productivity numbers, we were telling them their performances, we were telling them about their risks, etc. In terms of these infrastructure projects. So we did a fair amount of like market research, etc., where we figure out, okay, what's the growth rate, what's the route construction, etc. that's happening. So it's always good to get some data behind you, because I think A, it sort of puts a conviction behind your idea, and B, your investor and your customers are anyway going to ask you for it. So I think this is a good amount of preparation work. I also remember we had done some quick surveys, etc. as well. So we had done some informal surveys with regards to some of our potential customers. So having a lot of this data, I think that definitely helps. Then we sort of really did a lot of market segmentation in terms of, okay, so this sector looks good. So you had logistics, material handling, highway construction, mining, and what are the KPIs that we're looking at? Remember, we spoke about some of the innovative KPIs. So we said, okay, what's the asset utilization? What's the real-time production that's happening? What's the asset productivity? So a lot of these KPIs is something that would appeal to a broad section of your customers. As I will come to later, there, depending on who your customer segment is, a particular KPI may appeal to him or not. So I think when you're dealing with the customers, you have to figure out what really are his needs, what is the area he's working on, and what are the other KPIs that will appeal to him. A top management person versus a middle management person versus a junior executive, they'll all have very different KPIs, very different needs, etc. So you gotta cater to all of them as such. And as customers, we are pretty much there in Australia, Greece, India, Senegal, etc. Very quickly, it's an IoT device. We use SIM to sort of really transmit a fair amount of data. It goes into our AWS cloud. We have a monitoring system, and then we have an application where you get all the information out of production, maintenance, asset performance, DHS, etc. Something similar to I think what you have, I think with regards to a lot of IoT devices within the healthcare. The principle actually remains same. You will have the data collection, the sensors, which will feed into the SIM. It will go to a cloud, and from there you sort of then start monitoring a lot of this information, and you start doing a lot of data analytics, etc. So principle pretty much remains the same. So I think what I think also really want to talk about is, I think very quickly, there's no slide around it, but you don't get the perfect idea right away. So remember when I joined the startup, one of the things that we were looking at is, okay, mine safety and all that stuff. We actually very quickly had to change that idea because we realized people are not paying money for that. I mean, everyone says it's a great concept, but no one's sort of really paying the money for that. So I think we really did a good amount of pivot around. That's number one. Number two, we did not have our own hardware. We were using a lot of Chinese hardware, and we figured out maybe it helps to have our own hardware because then we have a lot of flexibility in terms of the services that you can provide. Again, we didn't have any expertise. It's just through a sheer strength of will that we sort of found someone who could develop it. He also doing it for the first time. So quite a few of us were doing it for the very first time. Took us 6 months, but eventually developed it. So I think that was, and frankly, that was one of the more exciting journeys. That I was doing something that I was qualified. I was an engineer. Frankly, I hadn't used my services for the past 25 years. Suddenly, I was leveraging a lot of my expertise with regards to that, and doing a lot of product development, hardware development, etc. So the idea, the reason I'm telling you all this is, be ready to pivot or change your product as per the customer needs, and it's always easier to do it when you're at the beginning of your journey. When you may have a great idea, to reach out to the customers, and you suddenly realize either the marketplace is already filled with them, or the customer is not willing to pay for it, or maybe the customer has a totally different need for it. So don't be stuck to one particular idea. Be ready to sort of really pivot it out. And I think that's where finding the passion of why you're doing a startup, I think really sort of really kicks in. I think be very clear why you're doing the startup, and at the same time, you also have to be very clear about changing directions when you need to. So I mean, very quickly, this is the kind of customer profile that we were sort of really dealing with. We had a mining engineer, we had a supervisor, we had a management guy. Everyone had a very different sort of interest in a product. What we realized very quickly is the mining engineer was actually thinking of our product as a threat, because he thought that right now my CEO calls me every day to figure out how much production has been done. But now the tool is telling him real time basis the guy doesn't need me anymore. So actually, we very soon realized that when we're deploying the product, the guy is actually seeing it as a threat. So we had to do a bit of a change management. We had to sell it differently to the management, etc. So be ready for those that human change management piece. So you may have a great product, but how someone looks at your product and uses it, someone may look at it as a threat, someone may look at it as an opportunity. That's something you still need to sort of really deal in. This is an example. This is typically what an investor will look for you from you. Okay, how much implementation you're doing, how much profitability you're making, what's the subscription model, how many assets, etc. that you're tackling, what's the revenue. So your business plan really has to be ready. So I would say use your business plan as a North Star. Don't spend too much time developing the numbers, because frankly, those numbers get developed over a period of time. So I think your initial phase should be on product development, maybe 80% on product development, 20% on sales. As your product matures, actually switch it over. Make 80% of it sales and 20% product development, because it's okay to go to the market with an imperfect product which is working, because typically the customer will actually work out the kinks for you. So you don't have to. A lot of times people say, okay, my product is still in the development. I'll come to the market, and that time never comes, because you can never have a perfect product. So as long as you have a product which is working well, does like 70-80% of the thing, I think you're pretty much ready to go into the market. So this one, I think, really talks about the journey. I think I spoke about it. We were talking about some of the network issues that we were having. We figured out, okay, that we will right from mining, then we move to construction. And surprise, right now we are into water management. So we are right into Jal Jeevan. Absolutely have nothing to do with water management when we started off, but because our IoT devices work, I mean, we've actually moved into a new field. So I was talking about the whole pivoting piece, but this is a prime example that we saw an opportunity with our core capabilities, and we have really sort of adapted ourselves to it. A typical sales journey, I mean, depends from person to person. It's ours was a B2B business. So used to take us somewhere around 6 to 8 months to actually sort of really close a deal, because you had multiple stakeholders whom you had to explain the product to, then you would take the pilot, etc. And then someone will then say, okay, it works, doesn't work, etc. And be ready for a lot of rejections for no apparent reasons in a typical B2B business. So I mean, that's something that's really the nature of the beast. What I find very encouraging nowadays is the government actually is investing a lot. So actually, our sales cycles to the government is actually quite quick. It's like hardly 2 to 3 months versus the private. So things have actually turned around. But this is really, I think this is how you sort of really look at the competition again. This is something that you would need when you sort of talk to the investor. So you really need to figure out what your core competency really is. It doesn't have to be the lowest cost or the best features, etc. It's really how the customer sort of really see you. What's the value proposition that you really bring to the table? What kind of relationship that you have with the customer? So I mean, there's a whole lot of business. It's really a secret sauce. There's no easy or difficult way of sort of really looking at it. But I think you have to, I think also really do a fair amount of marketing. You have to blow your own horn in terms of what are some of the awards, etc. that you're getting. So yeah, so this is something that you need to be clear about your competition and where you sort of really fit in. My final slide, some of the learnings that I've had, be hands-on. I think, and initially you need to be hands-on because you need to understand really the nuts and bolts of your product. The customer at times will come up with some pretty interesting sort of requirements, and you have to be in a decision to say yes or no at that point of time. So I think initially being hands-on, I think that definitely is important. So a lot of people I know, I mean, they've never done coding in their lives, etc. But they get exposed to coding, they understand how the product works, and then sort of take it forward from there. Keep on constantly refreshing the product. Just because something is working well doesn't mean the product has to stay the same way. We keep on constantly sort of really refreshing the product, and we keep on getting the customer feedback. I spoke about being ready to pivot in the early stages. Don't get emotionally attached to your product. I think very, very important. So unless you're Steve Jobs and you know exactly what the customer wants, 99% of us actually really evolve through the journey. So be ready for that. Build an integrated solution. I think don't be afraid to back integrate. So we gave the example of a hardware device. We had no competency around it, but we did a backward integration, worked for us. Developing client relationship takes time. The thing that I think one of the most important lessons for me in the startup was that initially people will give you a business not because you have a great product, but because they believe in you, and you have a great chemistry with them. I mean, that's really, I think, one of my learnings, that people come to you because they trust in you, and they understand that you don't have a perfect product, but you have the right intentions and you have the right capability. So again, even more reason that you need to invest in relationships, you need to invest in people, you need to invest in your customers, and don't wait for the perfect product, because your customer will actually develop the product for you. So again, understand the mindset and the expectation of the customer. Be ready to do a good amount of change management, etc. Lastly, I think you don't build the product; your customers build the product for you. I think this is sort of really spoke about, is that our product has gone multiple evolutions, multiple journeys, all because when we put it out in the field, the customer gave us the feedback, we followed it up, and that's how really build really the product for us. What's not here on the slide, I think, is a lot about the investment piece. Start the journey, I think, early. Start getting the feedback from the investors, etc. as well. And I think money is important, but I think I won't put it in the top bracket. I would say having a great team and a great customer, I think that's number one and number two. Money can always be pulled in. I mean, there are enough people in the market right now who can sort of really invest in your product, but that will happen only if you have the right product. And when you're looking at investors, investment is almost like marriage. You need to have people who are absolutely committed to that product and with whom you share a good equation. Because the last thing you want is you took someone's money and then you don't have a very good relationship with them. I mean, you'll be spending like 70% of your time managing that relationship and getting frustrated. So be very, very careful while sort of accepting someone's money out there. So yeah, that's it from my side. Thank you so much for your time. I'm more than happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Rohit, for such a beautiful elaboration and hands-on experience sharing. May I request the members, if you have some queries, we'll be happy to take. Yes, Dr. Jawahar?
Yeah, I just thank you very much for the talk. I just wanted to, get some ideas about how is the startup different. Now you have explained about a product, but there are firms which are giving service also. So how is it different, or is it different, or what are the strategies which are to be there for service industry?
So when you say service versus product, what area are you looking for explanation on?
Now, see, the Uber, Ola, they are all services, no? So similar ideas can also be there as a startup. So I was just wondering about that.
Okay. Fair enough. I think that's a good question, and I think it really depends on which area you are more comfortable with. So if you ask me right now, within our own startup, we started with services. We moved to a hardware product, and now we are moving back to services again. So it's because I mean, with the hardware product, etc., you need a lot of investment on the field. There's a whole lot of need to build a lot of operation capability. So if you are very hands-on, you have a lot of field in the field. You have a lot of operations capability, etc. You can take care of a lot of these issues, etc. I think bringing in product as well as services, I think is great. Services has, I think, a fantastic amount of it keeps you asset light. You don't need all the kind of investment, etc. But then within services, it's very easy for someone to catch up with you. Whereas if you have a product and a service, it really becomes almost like your safety moat, or it becomes this is something that you can actually really go to the customer and say that I have an end-to-end product. So that's what establishes your credibility. So, but again, it's totally, I think, up to you. What do you feel more comfortable with? If you have a service which is not scalable, which is very difficult to copy. For example, you have a diagnostic which no one can really copy. By all means, I think go for it. Product requires a good amount of investment. It has a much higher sort of failure rate, but it definitely helps to establish your credibility with regards to customers as well as the investors. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you very much. I mean, another thing I wanted to, just highlight is that, in healthcare industry, especially the public sector, like, this AIMS and all, though we talk that the government is encouraging this startups, the faculty members of these AIMS are not permitted to take up this grant and take up any kind of startups. So, is there any movement towards that? Either you or Mr. Rajbir can respond to that. I just thought to get some idea on that.
Sure. Rajbir, you want to take that?
No, I'm sorry, I don't have an insight. I didn't know that because we have interacted with some doctors from AIMS who have tried to do the startups. They never mentioned that they've not been allowed to raise funds. I'll have to kind of cross-validate and get back to you on that, Dr. Swar. So there was at least one doctor I remember we were speaking to them. We spoke to them for almost more than a year. And I've seen many AIMS doctors participate in the IIT startups. So they don't participate as investors or as a co-founder. They're more like a technical mentors or maybe a co-founder with a very, very small stake. I'll have to check and get back to you on that as well.
Yeah, because now this NMC recently has come out with changing the requirement of academic positions. So if you are practicing in a government hospital, though you don't have an academic program, you are eligible to be an academic faculty in the medical college after say a period of 2 years, 5 years, like that. So there is a transition. It's happening in various fronts. So this could be another area which can explore, and maybe like innovators like you can also maybe push that idea, because there are, what I am seeing is that there are a lot of talent in All India Institute of Medical Sciences among the faculty members, but they are not permitted to take up these startups. So it actually remains, because I am aware about some of these faculty members who could not proceed with this activity. So can there be? So we should have a thought on that. My submission.
No, thank you so much for sharing that. We'll definitely try to raise it to the right forum. And increasingly the intent is to get the faculty members, PhD scholars to start these startups rather than innovate, because they have the deep understanding of the technology and the problems. Unlike it's very fashionable for the graduate students to start startups, but they don't really have a deep understanding how business works, how the domain knowledge, technology. A lot of them tend to be a failure. Whereas faculty members with their resources are really in the right position to actually do the startups. I'll definitely get back to you on that. And on the services question that you asked earlier, when we talk about products, largely we talk about products and services interchangeably. The principles are very similar. Whether you launch a service or you launch a product, you need to be deeply differentiated. The source of differentiation could be different. In case of a product, technology tends to be a source of differentiation. In case of services, it's a business model which tends to be a source of differentiation. What market are you addressing? Are you elevating a customer experience or patient experience? Are you addressing completely new market? Or are you taking something like a marketplace? Are you developing a marketplace where you're bringing patients and doctors together? So it could be various other sources of innovation. Whereas unlike product, product is technology and services largely the other elements of business model.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Let me give a very simple and slightly dumb, but I think it's a very powerful example of what can also differentiate you. So when we entered the B2B space with regard to the IoT product, frankly, one of the differentiation between us and the other startups or other industries was we were giving them something as simple as like a weekly progress chart or a weekly report and a communication. And the customers said, "Oh wow, you're so professional. We would love to work for you." Nothing to do with the product or the technology. Simple, sort of really basic corporate etiquettes in terms of communicating to the customer, giving them the right information at the right time, helping them during their meetings, etc. I mean, that itself became a huge sort of differentiating factor. So I think and that's where I think a good amount of experience sort of really comes in, because if once you've had, I think, a good amount of experience in the corporate or teaching, etc., you know how to sort of really deal with people, you know how to communicate, and trust me, that is a huge difference. That makes a huge difference in terms of your startup being a success or a failure.
Great, great.
Thank you.
Any other question? Thank you so much, Dr. Jawahar. Any other question? If nobody has a question, I have a question, Professor Rajbir, for you. So one of the things that people generally grapple with is, when I have an idea, whom should I reach out to? Should I reach out to the, at which level of the client should I reach out? Should I reach out to the promoter and senior management? Or should I reach out to the mid-level? Or should I reach out to the user level with my product or service? Where should I reach out to?
It depends on the maturity of the where you are. Do you just have an idea? Do you have a prototype? Do you have a product? So what are you trying to achieve through that transaction? Are you just trying to validate the idea? Are you trying to sell that product to somebody? So depending on that. So if you're just trying to validate the idea, you may want to reach out to the patients rather than somebody in the hospital organization or the buying organization. Or you can also reach out to somebody who is a functional administrator in that role, who is actually working directly with the patients. So let's say there's a doctor who's directly engaging with the patients. That doctor might be in a better position to comment on the quality of the idea or the quality of the prototype, whether it's actually solving the problem or not. But once you have developed the product and then you want the hospital to buy it, then you may need to actually speak to a network of people, the decision maker, the administrator, the procurement guy, the CEO, right? Multiple people you probably need to reach out to make sure that you can influence the adoption and the buying process.
Sure. Great. Thanks. That was helpful.
So let me just add to that mix. It's great. I think Rajbir is absolutely, I think, spot on with regards to meeting some of these folks, etc. But if your commercialization or actually someone is asking you to do a pilot, make sure you reach out to the finance and the sourcing. I found those guys to be the most powerful, because what we experienced was that the CEO, from the CEO to engineer, everyone said a great product, but then none of them had actually taken the permission from finance. And finance sourcing tends to ask the hard questions about how will you pay or will you pay, and that's where the rubber hits the road. If he's willing to pay for it or not. Otherwise, a lot of these projects tend to become like science projects for everyone. So just make sure you have like a letter of commitment or a PO or whatever. So before you actually start some serious investment and some serious work on your side.
Jagtar sir has a question, sir.
Yeah, I had a question for both, Rajbir and for Rohit. They have dealt with so many startups, and this is especially on behalf of our young listeners, our young members, who are stepping into this healthcare and who would have been very enthused with your, presentations. I would like to ask you, what is the kind of skills, competencies, or qualities that they need to work on or develop before they actually, start off on this or think of starting on this, startup journey? Anything you would like them to work on as individuals?
Yeah, so I think the startup journey is very hard, Dr. Jagtar. It's a journey which requires a lot of passion, a lot of commitment. It's a very lonely journey also. You will feel alone, and you won't know where to look for help. More often than not, you will be struggling financially because there is a significant period of loss in the initial phases. So one is you need to be clear about your commitment that yes, you want to do this because there is a larger purpose you have, that you want to make a difference. That is one. So that clarity that should be there in your head. Second is you need to have deep appreciation for the customers or the patient's pain points. So very strong ability to empathize is very, very important. And if you're not able to empathize, you're not really able to understand the true reason of the pain and why that pain is happening, and then having a scientific temper to develop the do the root cause analysis and solve that problem, then you're not, unless you have that, you can't really identify the right kind of problem and solve it. Otherwise, what will happen is you'll remain fairly superficial. You'll pick up some ideas here and there, you'll talk to people, tell me what idea should I pursue. You look at startups around you, you'll copy some ideas. That normally doesn't work. So you need to have very strong, intimate understanding of the problem to be able to solve it. And then a scientific temper to solve it actually as well.
Okay.
Yeah, there are more, but Rohit,
No, thank you very much. That's very nice. You put it in perspective.
For me, I would say the number one, within my journey, the number one thing that I sort of came out of my comfort zone, which I think is most important, is making a sale. Ability to talk to customers, ability to sort of sell your ideas, ability to sell your product. Unless you have it or someone else has it, I mean, frankly, no point getting into the whole startup journey. You should be in the R&D. You should really be in the R&D business. So, for me, the ability to sort of really sell something, sell your ideas, sell your concepts, network, I think that was very important.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks.
Very, very beautiful insight, both of you. I think that really helps a lot of, I am able to echo with a lot of these thought process, although I don't think that I'm still there. But yeah, a good insight. In fact, Rajbir has been my mentor too in the NRCell cohort. So I'm glad that we are able to talk to a larger audience. Just to ask, to encourage the people around or innovators who are listening to you, Rohit, can I ask you a little intimate question? I don't know whether you'll be able to respond to that. That what was the investment that you started with, and what was the have you sold it off, or are you still with the company? And what was it like after 5 years? What was the size financially? Huh?
Sure.
Sorry to ask.
So I think in terms of no, absolutely. So as I said, I mean, you should talk about money.
Yeah.
I think that is important. So frankly, I did not make the investment. I was there on a sweat equity basis. So what I can share is I was pretty much at nearly 1/5 of the money I was making for a good 3 to 4 years. That was really the journey, and again, it was a slightly. I mean, it's a tough journey unless you're passionate about it. We have managed to raise investments. We haven't sold it off, but I have pretty much moved out. I have my equity stake out there. But our company is still growing. So when we started, we were hardly around 5 people. We're close to around 60 people right now, and we are evolving. I mean, when I was there, I was there for around 5 years. I'm sort of in and out of it for the past 1 year, but I think the whole setup and the whole ecosystem has changed around quite a bit. So people used to ask me how's the startup journey. I used to tell them it's thrice the fun for 1/3 the pay. So yeah, that was the journey for me.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much. Is there any other question for Rohit and Rajbir? Anyone? Okay, so if there are no more questions, may I request General Jittar sir to propose a vote of thanks to our esteemed guests today, and welcome them for the next episode next time.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Shyama. It's always an honor. It's always a pleasure to thank the stalwarts on our program, Rajbir and Rohit. And even before I thank them, I would like to actually thank them on our public platform that they took the time out, they took the effort to reach out to us, and they agreed to collaborate with the AHA on this to develop innovative healthcare startups through joint programs and incubation center. This is what our MOU with the I4 Mentor Group says, with the objects of healthcare innovation, startup support, policy development, and ecosystem building. These are the areas that we would be working with I4 Mentor Group. So thank you formally for this, MOU that you have signed with the AHA. It's a great opportunity. We are all very excited about it, and we are, looking forward to take it ahead in a very, very meaningful way. And of course, thanks for this very illuminating session, both of you, Rajbir and Rohit. It has been wonderful to get the great insight of your, experience in this very, very niche kind of a field. And I'm sure our members are going to benefit from this, sharing of your knowledge and your experiences with them. And we look forward to, the another 2 webinars that you have planned in this series. And there would be much more coming, I think, for our members to dwell on, so that they are encouraged to take this journey in the startup field. What you said was great, Rajbir, when you said that the mission of any startup should be to make a difference in the people's life. And there I feel the healthcare field already has a head start. We're already there making difference in somebody's mind. So I feel if anywhere it is easy to work on, it would be, the healthcare, where this basic kind of a thing is already fulfilled. So let's see, where we get these opportunities, where we get these, ideas to move forward. And what Rohit said, that you don't make the product, but your customer makes the product for you. It's so right in healthcare. Your patients tell you what to do, right? You don't have to, tell them. They are the ones who guide you, even of how you look after them and in what ways you can look after them. So these 2 statements are really, I would say, the foundations of how we can build up startups in our healthcare ecosystems. So thank you also for some of our ex, board members who are here and the present board members. Also to all the audience who joined in and listened to this very wonderful talk by, people who are, experts in the field of startups, and they have great kind of an insight and experience in this field. So look forward to having you again on this platform to share your insights and your experience. Thank you so much once again, and great listening to you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Dr. Jitpal. Thank you, everyone. Thank you. I
Thank you.
appreciate
Thank you
the
so much.
opportunity.
That was very good. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye.
Thank
Good
you.
day.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. See you. Thank you. Thanks, Rohit.